Okay, and we are live. Gonna wait for folks to join in. Greg, thanks for being here. Day 3 of 3. Taking note of all the people who are chiming in. Sophie's here again today, too. Hey, Michelle and Angia. Glad you can make it. We'll get started here in just a few seconds. You'll hear my spiel and we'll get rolling with the program. Gonna let people roll in just a little longer. Hey, Christy, day 3 of 3. Love the crew that has been tuning in each day. It's great to see. Feel free to introduce yourself in the chat, everybody too. Feel free to make sure that the note is to all panelists and attendees too, so everybody knows who you are and that you're here, because we're all technically in a shared space together. I'll get started. So hello, my name is Adam Desjardins. I'm the programs manager at CultureSource. For those of you who are new to CultureSource, we are the regional arts service organization for Southeast Michigan. And we do our work through 3 pillars, one of which is programs and convenings, like this one that you're at today. We do our work also through funding and regranting initiatives to financially support the sector, the arts and cultural sector, that is. And the last is through research to better understand the needs and opportunities for supporting the arts and cultural sector, which helps us to design our regranting initiatives and design our programs and convenings so that we can be responsive and relevant to the work that everybody is doing, the creative work that everybody is doing in the region. I'm excited to see some really great creative work today from both Heritage Works and Accent Pontiac as a part of our 3rd How Do I Do That session as a part of Innovation Week, which has been taking place this entire week. A little bit more on Innovation Week in a second. These How Do I Do That sessions are just a quick 30 minutes to get to know some of the really innovative work that's happening in the region as it pertains to creative activity in arts and culture and the future of arts organizational work. And we will get going with the 3rd and final one. So a little bit more about Innovation Week. This is a week full of programming, of lots of different types of programming. Basically all around the concept of innovation and what it means to create organizational change at our arts and culture organizations. So we're doing this through the following programs, one of which is 3 40-minute on-demand programs on organizational change and innovation via EMC Arts. For those of you who might not know about EMC Arts, they are a really great leadership training cohort, ran a leadership training cohort here in Southeast Michigan for first-time executive directors of arts and cultural organizations with us back in 2019. Kim Howard, my colleague who will be facilitating today's conversation, ran that program, and yeah, they're just really great and have really great insights as to what innovation is and how it plays out in our world. So feel free to take advantage of those 3 on-demand programs. Tomorrow, our final live program is with the AEI Lab, which is the Arts Entrepreneurship and Innovation Lab down at Indiana University. They are really fascinating researchers who study the creative economy, and we are in partnership with them and really, are doing a lot of knowledge exchange because they're also trying to make sure that their research is relevant to arts and cultural workers and artists, and also just usable. So they're really curious about, how can we collaborate, with them being in academia and researchers, but then also, with people on the ground doing arts and culture work. So feel free to join us for that. That's really just like a drop-in meeting where we'll be hearing what they're doing. And we will all also be able to share, with them what we're up to and who we are too. So please join us for that. That'll be really exciting and fun. Joanna and Doug are great. We just launched a blog post yesterday about Black Futures, which is this really amazing book here by Kimberly Drew and Jenna Wortham. Read that on our website at culturesource.org. It features reflections on the book from local leaders in the arts and culture space here. So please check that out because it's a really wonderful book, and also really approaches what has Black innovation and creativity looked like, and where is it headed into the future too. And then next week we'll be doing some sharing of all these recordings of the How Do I Do That sessions, as well as resharing a lot of the content that we've created for this week too, just so that people, who might have missed it, get a chance to engage with it as well. So stay tuned for that. All of this is in partnership, with the COVID-19 Arts and Creative Community Assistance Fund and the Community Foundation for Southeast Michigan. So we are very grateful for their support in supporting arts and culture organizations and creative activity to be innovative and to really be future forward as we approach our work post-pandemic / as we continue to live in the pandemic too. Another big shout out and thank you to all of our partners, of which there are many, and we thank them in supporting us to support the arts and cultural sector in our region. So very big thank you to all of them. And without further ado, we're going to get on to our third and final How Do I Do That with Rhonda Greene from Heritage Works and Tina Rowan from Accent Pontiac. I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Kim Howard, who is today's facilitator, because y'all have had enough of me. So I'm going to fizzle away into the background and let Kim, be the host today. Kim, feel free to join me.
Thank you so much, Adam.
Hey.
Thank you. And it's my pleasure to be here with both Rhonda and Tina. Rhonda at Heritage Works is a longtime CultureSource member. So I'm excited to be able to provide this platform for you to share the great work you're doing. And then I'm also very excited to talk with Tina a little later after your presentation. Tina at Accent Pontiac is actually a new CultureSource member. So excited to have the old and the new coming together to share the great work that you're doing. I know that we have just a short amount of time, so I'm just going to pass it over to you, Rhonda, and let you do your thing. Tell us about Heritage Works. Tell us about the innovative work that you all have been doing over there, what the process has been like, what your timeline has been like, and then where you're headed from here.
Awesome. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Adam, and thank you, CultureSource. I'm going to talk a little bit about who we are and then talk to you about how we got to our project. There's sometimes a delay, but Heritage Works was founded in 2000, actually as African Dance Works. In 2008, let me see if it'll come up. There you go. So again, we were founded in 2008, in 2000, I should say, as African Dance Works. In 2008, we formally adopted the value of equity. It was central to everything we were doing and changed our name to Heritage Works because it was a bigger vehicle or a better car, if you will, to accomplish what we were trying to get done. I like to talk about the work we do in terms of our artistic framework. I think about it as having four aspects. One is intergenerationality, and is symbolized with the drum that often requires, they talk about the drum orchestra, it requires multiple voices to create the balanced or the whole rhythm. Bernice Johnson Reagan would say, have at least 5 generations in the room before you make a decision. And again, most drum orchestras have at least 3, and they can have up to 5, 7, or more. The second one is orality, or West African orality. It is a framework that sees art forms as languages. So movement is kinetic, music is percussive, adornment is visual, and all of these languages weave together to create the whole tradition and just provide a much more equitable way to look at arts than, say, high or low art. The third one is the village circle, which it sets art at the center of a community and community as central to art making. If you go to West Africa, art actually takes place, performance geographically or literally at the center of the village. And I've been to a number of these things and try to hide in the corner, but it's not over until everybody participates. And then the last one is just a baobab tree in terms of, and it's about how do we contribute to the cultural, intellectual asset development of on one side of the spectrum, all the way out to the financial or wealth building on the other side of the spectrum. Our mission is to promote youth and community development through cultural traditions, arts, and education. We do that through 2 public programs, Youth Works and Community Works, and 1 back office program, which is about advancing our organization. So in 2020, as I shared in, where you might have picked up from our timeline, we were celebrating our 20th anniversary. Our board decided early on that they wanted to celebrate it over 2 years. 2020 would be about reflection, 21 would be about looking forward, again, 2020 would be about looking back. One of the things we began with was interviewing Dr. Joan Myers-Brown, the founder of Philadelphia. Philadelphia in 2020 was celebrating 50 years. And at 2020, I just wanted to know how you did. At 20 years, I have to say, I just want to know how you did 50. And so originally I was just going to have a one-on-one conversation with her, but through conversations with other women, I realized that it would be really, really valuable to capture that conversation. And thanks to the support of Njia Kai at NKSK Events and Production, who is a filmmaker, we were able to capture it in high quality and ask some pretty great questions. And one of the things afterwards, when we were talking, our team and Njia talked about how centering that work was, or that experience was, and they wish more people had heard it. We also convened Detroit African American women artists and creatives, and as part of their registration and as part of the breakouts, they responded to prompts and questions, and a needs statement emerged. Finally, through the Creative Lab for Cultural Leaders, an opportunity that we actually found out about from CultureSource. It's an opportunity out of the Arts Institute of Chicago. We have the opportunity to work with Jack Blacks of the Big Joy Theory and George I of the Studio for Good on power assessments and dynamics and asymmetry. And Dr. Blacks was about following your joy and the work falls out. And George really taught us about how to know when we're losing, when power is being taken from us, when we have opportunities to give it away and share. And so after that work, all of that, I can just say we start looking forward and I start thinking about the way we should do our work differently. And so this opportunity came for the Innovation Fund. And I was actually going to propose another project, but our team, the people I was talking with, and a friend who coaches me sometimes, they were just like, let's start with what brings us joy. Right, and after we identified some things, we looked at it from the lens of how could we extend or share the benefits, address the needs that emerge among African American women, and disrupt power asymmetries, the imbalances of powers that are often represented in the arts industry and in funding. And so we came up with a project that is both, the name of it is Digital Sankofa, but before we arrived at the name, it was both an experiment because we didn't have a clear question or a clear solution. We wanted to leave that up to the participants, and it blended West African community tradition, community building with web or digital community building. And we've assembled a group of women, or began assembling them, to look at this work. It's about their co-design, their story sharing and hearing, and their assessing and prototyping and coming up. Again, it is an experiment, so we don't have an answer. That's one of the tenets of power sharing and extending the benefits. And that's where we are. That's what Digital Sankofa. Sankofa literally means to return and get it. And so it's about looking to the past, tradition, so that you can move forward in a powerful way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rhonda. That was wonderful. We're going to get back to you right after we hear from Tina. If you have any questions that you would like to ask Rhonda, please make note of those, pop those in the chat, and then we'll make sure that we get as many of those as we can after we hear from Tina. Tina, without further ado, I'm happy to turn it over to you, Tina Rowan at Accent Pontiac.
Thank you, Kim, and thank you to Adam and CultureSource and the entire team. And thank you to Rhonda. It's really inspiring to hear about your work at Heritage Works. But hi, everyone. My name is Tina Rowan. I'm the Executive Director of Accent Pontiac. And I'm really excited to be here with you today to share the work that we've been doing here at Accent Pontiac, thanks to the support from CultureSource and the Community Foundation for Southeastern Michigan. I'm going to share my screen. And present. Just have a couple slides for you to get a sense of what we're doing. Accent Pontiac is a social change through music program based in Pontiac, Michigan. We launched in 2016 as a partner of the Pontiac School District, serving hundreds of Pontiac students with free during and after school music education, offering brass, woodwind, and percussion programming 4 days per week for Pontiac students, mostly in elementary school, a couple middle schoolers as well. And prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, all of our programming was hosted at our partner schools in Pontiac. So when March 2020 came, we really had to change our entire model of programming and figure out how we were going to continue to support our students and families in Pontiac in this completely new context. So we took a little bit of time to really dig into some of our values, looking at our values, especially of access and community and social change, and asking ourselves, how can we continue to ensure that students in Pontiac have access to music education? How can we become even more embedded in the Pontiac community and support residents with the new challenges brought by COVID-19? And how can we live into our vision of social change through music? We call ourselves a social change through music program, but how can we really live into this identity during this crisis? So we got input from students and parents and staff and volunteers, and we came up with porch lessons. Porch lessons are outdoor, socially distanced lessons at our students' homes. You can see the pictures on the slide here. And so we launched a pilot program of this last June 2020 with about 30 students who were receiving a music lesson outside their home, 1, sometimes 2 times per week. And so this project was created really in direct response to the COVID-19 pandemic, making sure we were following all of the safety requirements to implement this safely. But we found that it has brought a really incredible additional value to our program. We were more embedded in the Pontiac neighborhoods, not just the schools in Pontiac, but in the actual neighborhoods, bringing joy and excitement and music into the streets of Pontiac. We had siblings of our students and kids from down the block that would hear the music and run down the street and want to join in. Neighbors who were driving through would slow down their cars to listen to what was going on, ask what was going on. Another outcome we saw was just strong musical progress from the participating students. Our programming at the schools was traditionally structured as ensemble classes, as group classes. And this was the first time that we offered individual lessons. And we really saw students making great progress on their instruments. And then a really important one in our eyes, because we were at our students' homes, we were developing much stronger relationships with our students and their families. And as part of this, our kids and families felt comfortable sharing what their needs were with us. And so at the beginning of the pandemic, we were hearing that our families needed help, some with accessing food, some with accessing essential items like cleaning supplies and toiletries, others needing support to secure internet access as everything was moving virtual. So we were able to partner with Pontiac's My COVID Response Network. So we were connected with other Pontiac organizations to help get our families the support that they needed. And sometimes we actually made these deliveries during porch lessons, but sometimes we just served as connectors, making sure that, when we connected with our kids and families during a porch lesson, we were connecting them with the right resources for what they needed. So we continued this kind of first pilot program of porch lessons until November 2020. And then we had to move everything virtual. It was getting colder, case numbers were rising, so virtual programming was the best option. But we have been really grateful to be able to plan a relaunch and expansion of porch lessons this year. And unfortunately, because porch lessons are outdoors, it relies on the cooperation of Michigan weather. So that has made it a little bit challenging, but we have relaunched our porch lessons at the beginning of May. So we're just a few weeks into the second iteration of the project. And with the funding from CultureSource and the Community Foundation, we've been able to hire and train 2 new teaching artists as part of this project. And we're already starting to hear new requests from our students and families for different types of wraparound support. We're working with a family to help secure support for a social worker for one of our students. We're also working with students to support online academic instruction as they finish up this school year. So our plan, we're planning to continue these outdoor porch lessons through the summer and the fall. Hopefully we can make it through mid-November as we were able to do last year. And then in addition to the porch lessons project, in the past couple months, we've been able to actually start bringing back some of our small group in-person instruction. So it's been really amazing to see how we can offer both this group instruction and the porch lessons. And the students who are participating are now getting 4 days a week. Again, they're getting 2 days in a group instruction and 2 days in porch lessons. So as we look towards the future, you know, even once we're able to offer our large ensemble classes again, we really want to keep porch lessons as part of the core part of our program. So again, we are grateful to CultureSource and the Community Foundation for Southeastern Michigan for supporting this project and for giving us the chance to share with you all today. So I'm going to stop sharing and turn it back over to Adam and Kim.
Thank you, Tina. Wonderful, wonderful program and work that you're doing as well. So at this point, I'm going to invite Rhonda. Oh, there you are. So now is the time where we can just have some open dialogue with each other, some open conversation, ask some questions. I did see Sophie had mentioned in the chat, Rhonda, if there's a link to Dr. Myers-Brown's interview that you did.
Yeah, I can pull it up. I'll paste it in there.
Okay, thank you. And so while you're doing that, Tina, I will go ahead and start with you. One of the things that I loved is that you went beyond the work that you normally do in terms of your music programming to provide even more support to your students and their families during this program. Did you find it difficult to find that support? How did you go about identifying the other organizations who might be available and provide those opportunities to support them beyond your program?
Yeah, great question. Pontiac did a really great job at the beginning. Pontiac as a city, as a community, did a really great job at the beginning of the pandemic of bringing together leaders and organizations in the community to just communicate with each other and figure out ways to collaborate. So this was led primarily by the Pontiac Community Foundation and in partnership, I believe, with Oakland University that really immediately started putting together weekly calls, inviting leaders from nonprofits, the mayor, city council members, just all of the community leaders that we could find, putting together weekly calls, listening to each other about what the needs were that we're hearing from the residents in Pontiac and figuring out how we can work together. So we found the organizations like, say, Lighthouse or Oakland University who are doing food distribution, who are able to have the resources to collect boxes and boxes of foods to distribute. That's not what Accent Pontiac does, but what Accent Pontiac can do is say, hey, we can get some volunteers to help distribute this, and we have the connections with the community to know who needs this support. And so I think by the Pontiac Community Foundation putting together these calls, it made it really easy for organizations like us to say, hey, this is what we know, this is what we can offer, and find the right people to connect with to make it happen.
Excellent. Nothing like having those connections and then community working together. I will ask you one more question and then I'm going to jump over to Rhonda. Did you see any upticks in terms of your student base? Did you because you were actually going to them, did you have more interest in your programming? Did you have new students approaching you?
Yeah, that's a good question too. It was really different. We're used to having access to all of these students in a school community, and we kind of lost that when we moved out. So it was access to new students. Again, it was like siblings, younger siblings of our students that were really interested in joining the program. It was next door neighbors who maybe, go to a school of choice outside of Pontiac who are saying, oh, hey, this is an opportunity, I want to join in. And it's been a difficult time for everyone. So I can't say that our numbers just blew up. There's so much that our kids and families were doing in the past year, but we were seeing different groups of students who were able to access what we were doing, and different groups of students and families who were interested and aware of what we were doing, because we were more embedded in the neighborhoods and not just the schools.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And so Rhonda, question for you. I love that you have this kind of multi-generational approach to what you do and how you do things, and that it's important that you hear all of the voices and invite all of the voices to speak and have that voice. So can you tell me more about that and how you are able to do that? And what are some of the challenges of making sure that all of those generations are in the room and have that voice?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we started off as an African dance only organization and did a lot of mommy and me classes, because African dance really is around the family. And people participate as drummers. There's always a baby line, or a line for people who are like 3 and younger. And then they literally line up the dancers across the floor based on age. So it's always been about multiple generations and community classes. And so we just built on that tradition. When we would have performances with our youth, we would have our parents do a dance, and it was opportunity for young people that they would dance with their children. It was an opportunity for young people to teach their parents, which always builds communication. And it gives the young people a chance to be like, Ma, that ain't even the way you do it. You do it like this. And they loved having pride around that. Some of the challenges are, nobody outweighs mom in a child's life. And so, when you're the leader of that classroom, and you're giving instruction to a young person and the mother is there, the child will turn and look to see what the mother thinks. And so you have to balance that, because you want to honor that. We have our young girls wrap their mother's head as a way to show respect and honor. And so there's a way to do it, but you always have to find a balance. There are parents that'll just be like, no, don't treat my child like that. And so it's about finding spaces for all of those dynamics.
It's wonderful. I just love it, love it. And I'm a dance fan myself, and was raised in a house where both my parents danced all over the place. We constantly saw them dancing. I was the one, standing on my father's feet as he taught me how to dance. So I certainly appreciate bringing, parents together with their kids and having those shared bonding experiences. And also appreciate the challenges that you have and how you are able to work over those challenges and above those challenges. I did see a question for Tina pop up. What elements of the program do you think you will maintain once schools open? And can the bandwidth of the organization handle both, or do you have to choose?
Yes, so you hit on the number one challenge, which is capacity. And so, last year when we launched Porch Lessons, it was basically all we were doing, right? We were like, we can't have ensemble classes. What do? We'll do Porch Lessons, and all of our bandwidth was directed towards that. And so what was really amazing about the support from Community Foundation for Southeastern Michigan and CultureSource was that it actually gave the support for at least this year for us to add. We were able to hire a couple additional teaching artists for this project specifically, so that our teachers that are already part of our team are more focused right now on bringing back the small group instruction. So right now we are piloting that model of doing both, of having kids a couple days a week do Porch Lessons, but a couple days a week do group programming. And so you know, the expectation for next year, hopefully as it becomes safe to do more, you know, large group ensemble classes again, that we'll kind of figure out what that balance looks like too. That we do want to continue porch lessons as something that as a main part of our program, but it might not be as robust as it is right now. It might not be 2 days a week of porch lessons for students. It might be 1 day a week or once every other week, or it might be, you know, we do group lessons during the year and porch lessons are our summer programming that are consistent through the summer. So we haven't gotten there quite yet. We're working on what this pilot looks like right now to combine 2 aspects of our program, but then trying to think ahead for how we continue to do this and how we make sure that we have the capacity to continue this as we are able to go back to some of our ensemble classes.
Excellent, thank you. And I think that also answered another question that we had from Rob, who was also wondering about the plan to continue the neighborhood-based programming post-pandemic. So yes, thank you for that. Rhonda, one more question. I know we're at the witching hour at this point, but I wanted to touch on how you were able to actually manage your program through the COVID-19, you know, shutdowns and closures and all those kinds of things. It sounds like you had a pretty, you know, vibrant program schedule and working with Dr. Myers-Brown. You know, how were you able to navigate all of that during this pandemic and this craziness?
Yeah, we had to take time to figure out how we could switch to online or do some things in person at a distance. And it was really just out of the need for the community. We did an activity called Detroit Libation because our communities were hurting, and we just put a call out to leaders to pour libations for the people who passed, and they created and shot their own activity. There's been an advantage in being online in the sense that we can work with teachers in Senegal, in Philadelphia, like from the Philadelphia Dance Company, and from Chicago. So although there are a lot of disadvantages in terms of isolation, there have also been some advantages. One of our teachers traveled to Senegal and you know, set up an opportunity for us to watch a cooking class, to visit with a griot, and to go to a school. And so that's kind of, we've just been looking for ways to innovate, to borrow on you all's theme, and just stay in touch with our young people and their families.
Excellent. We're now at 12:32, unfortunately. And of course, you know, as always, we could continue these conversations, you know, for a much longer period of time. But I want to say thank you so much to both of you for taking the time to join us. I want to say thank you to all of the guests who were able to join us today for this third and final session. I want to again acknowledge and thank our partners, the Community Foundation for Southeast Michigan and the ACCA Fund, which is the COVID-19 Arts and Creative Community Assistance Fund. Continue to keep in touch with us here at CultureSource. We will continue to promote and present programs like this as often as we have the opportunity. Again, thank you all so much. Much continued success to both of you, and applause for the great work you've already done and will continue to do. And again, let CultureSource know how we can be of assistance to you in the work that you're doing. Thank you all. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.